The Chicago Bulls reportedly upped their offer to Josh Giddey. Is this enough to get the deal done? And how far should the Bulls be willing to go with training camp just weeks away? Plus some updated thoughts on the Kawhi Leonard and Steve Ballmer situation. I'm Trevor Lane. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. So let's start with the news update here. The Bulls offer a 4-year, $88 million deal to Josh Giddey. That is an $8 million total increase over the rumored $80 million deal that they were offering prior to this. Josh Giddey is a restricted free agent, one of several around the NBA. Yesterday, we saw Cam Thomas take the qualifying offer. That is for these restricted free agents, essentially the nuclear option. These guys have matching rights with their incumbent teams, and that's why they're still sitting there in free agency, despite now we're in September. You don't see teams with cap space typically want to offer contracts to players who are restricted because they know their incumbent team is almost certainly just going to match and keep the player anyway. So that puts these players in a very difficult situation. Ultimately, Cam Thomas decided to just take the qualifying offer, play for $6 million, and then he can wind up hitting free agency next summer. He will also have a no trade clause this season as a result. So that's the danger for these teams, is that in the case of the Chicago Bulls, say if Josh Giddey were to play for his qualifying offer, he could hit full free agency next summer and potentially leave the team for nothing. And Jonathan Kuminga and Quentin Grimes find themselves stuck in this position as well. However, with Josh Giddey, I don't see him taking the qualifying offer here. It just doesn't make any sense, really. With Jonathan Kuminga, I get it. He doesn't think his best long-term future is going to be had with the Golden State Warriors. I don't know if the Warriors even want to keep Jonathan Kuminga long-term, if they think he's the best fit for them either. Quentin Grimes, interesting situation there, but Giddey specifically, the Bulls gave up something valuable, something that helped the Thunder win a championship in Alex Caruso in order to get Josh Giddey. They are committed to Giddey. And Bobby Marks mentioning that Josh Giddey's contract offer from the Bulls has gone up to 4 years, $88 million. I just think we're too close here to not get something done. Giddey reportedly wants something around $30 million a year. I mean, I understand that, but if the Bulls are at $22 million, okay, do we meet somewhere in the middle? Like maybe we land on $25 million. Now, Bobby Marks did mention that the Bulls just committed 5 years and $90 million to Patrick Williams, and that probably was a mistake. Now, I certainly don't think that Patrick Williams has that kind of value around the NBA, but big picture, that's also something that we're seeing happen right now. We're talking about teams being worried about negative value contracts. Certainly, the Brooklyn Nets decided that rather than give Cam Thomas the amount of money he was looking for, somewhere in that 30 to 40 million range, which, by the way, is way too much in my opinion. The Brooklyn Nets decided they would be better off risking losing Cam Thomas for nothing than give him what would they believe would be a negative value contract. And I think that's a shift that we're seeing under the collective bargaining agreement that we have now, where teams are now willing to risk losing a player rather than give them a contract that will be seen as a negative value. And so you've got that dynamic, I think, here in the Josh Giddey conversation. But I think it really boils down to this. You look at the Chicago Bulls cap sheet, you can see they gave too much money to Patrick Williams. That's a negative value contract right now. Who knows? Maybe he plays well enough to where teams start to see that as a positive value. But right now, it's not. When we look at Giddey, though, the big question becomes, what is he? What is he really? Because I'll tell you what, if Josh Giddey is the player that he was last season, pre-All-Star, before the final few months of the season, he's probably not worth the money that the Bulls are offering. He's certainly not worth $30 million. 12.2 points per game, 7.1 rebounds per game, 6.4 assists per game. Good numbers, to be sure. Good numbers. 47% or 45% from the field, 35% from three, rounding up to get there, 75% at the free throw line. And then Josh Giddey kicked it into high gear. Post All-Star break, Josh Giddey, 21 points, 11 rebounds, 9.3 assists. My goodness, Josh Giddey. And look at those percentages. 50% from the field, 46% from three. Career-wise, his Achilles heel has been his three-point shooting. That's been the biggest concern for him. It's been his ability to shoot the three over the course of his NBA career. So, do we buy that Josh Giddey is now a good three-point shooter? 33% career three-point shooting for Josh Giddey. So do you buy the 46%? I'll tell you what, I don't. I don't buy that Josh Giddey is suddenly a 46% three-point shooter. That's crazy. That makes him maybe the best three-point shooter in the NBA. I don't think that is true. I think that's going too far. That's an outlier. But can he have improved? Absolutely. Absolutely. And if Josh Giddey is God, you can even chop 10% off that. If he's a 36%, if he's a 37% three-point shooter, no problem. He does enough other stuff on the floor, particularly when we look at the rebounding, the distributing, his ability to grab and go in transition. We know the Chicago Bulls team wants to play very, very fast. He'll be worth that money. You could argue it'd be worth $30 million. And so I think it's a matter of figuring out where the Bulls think he's going to be and trying to find that middle ground. Clearly, the Bulls are already committed to Josh Giddey. They want him to be part of their team long-term, and he was phenomenal in the final 3 months of the season. The only pause here for the Bulls, he's got to be careful because he only showed that over the final few months and was not that level of player for the beginning part of the season. Still young, so it's possible that he just leveled up. He just continued to grow, continued to get better. But that's the only area where you got to be careful and make sure you don't pay him for what he was over those final few months, where, again, I don't think the shooting is sustainable, not at that level anyway. I think he can be indeed better, but can he be that good? Probably not. So you don't want to pay him to be that and then have him fall short and be a negative value. So that's where the Bulls have to be a little careful here. But again, I think we're so close that ultimately a deal gets done here with Josh Giddey and the Chicago Bulls, and then he does stay long-term. But let me know, what do you buy those numbers from Josh Giddey? Do you think that's what he is now? Can he be next season let's say 20, 10 and 7 guy on 37% from the field and from three and 48% from the field? Can that be Josh Giddey? I think it's within the realm of possibilities. I don't think it's crazy. I think there's a pretty good shot he can do that. And if he does that, number one, he's probably talking about pretty close to all-star numbers right there, maybe, especially in the East, an all-star. And number two, you're talking about a guy who's probably worth about $30 million. And that's what Josh Giddey's camp is going to point towards. So if you're the Chicago Bulls, it's about knocking down that number a little bit, kind of mitigating any of your concerns that it may have just been a flash in the pan. It may have been a hot stretch for Giddey, and hoping that you can get him long-term on a deal that's, maybe it's $25 million. Something like that is where they ultimately settle. Or can you add some team control to the end, a team option, some non-guaranteed money, something of that nature. So I still think Josh Giddey re-signs. Kuminga, Grimes, man, we're getting closer and closer to them taking the qualifying offer every day. All right, some final thoughts on the Steve Ballmer appearance and Kawhi Leonard. Our great presenting sponsor for the Basketball Bulletin is Sleeper. If you've never heard of the Sleeper app, or more likely you have, here's a little secret. It is more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, there's millions of users playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more than just that. They have live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats, something I use every day, the news feed. Get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams, and a real-time chat where you can engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA season. So download the Sleeper app today. I made a couple of picks here on Sleeper. I'm fired up for the NFL season. I like on the season, Tyler Warren, the rookie with the Colts, more than 550.5 receiving yards. I think he's going to be a really important target for Daniel Jones. And then Zach Charbonnet. Yes, this means I don't think Ken Walker is going to stay healthy the entire season. Zach Charbonnet, 499.5 rushing yards. I think he will be involved in that offense, and he will eclipse that. So make sure you guys do check out the Sleeper app if you agree with me, or if you don't agree with me. Check it out. Either way.
Don't forget to enter promo code Bulletin as well upon sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, some final thoughts. I know a lot of people were responding to the video that I posted last night, reacting to the Steve Ballmer appearance. Kawhi Leonard, this whole deal with Aspiration and all of that. And Mark Cuban was on Pablo Torre's podcast today and was giving his side of things and largely defending Ballmer and essentially leaning on the fact that Ballmer's not stupid, would not do something that would put him in this kind of jeopardy. There's a lot of people speaking out strongly in favor of the Clippers here. There's a lot of people going the other way, a lot of back and forth on it. The truth will be revealed. But ultimately, I think this is where I land on this. And I want to know what the truth is just as bad as everybody else. I think they need to answer the why. Why did this company sign Kawhi Leonard to a $28 million, maybe more. There's a report out there, maybe $48 million when you've got stock involved as well. This huge contract without a requirement to do anything, with no requirement to do anything whatsoever. Why would you give anybody, why, even if they're scammers, why would anyone give someone that kind of money to do nothing? That is the right now gap in information that we've got. And people are filling that with their own theories of what happened. And it must be because Ballmer routed the money through this company and this happened and that happened and all of that. And Pablo Torre had some great reporting on that and dug deep and really found a lot of information. And the information doesn't look great for the Clippers. And again, people have been responding in favor of the Clippers as well. We don't know for sure exactly what happened here. I can say this, though. I was, bottom line, let down by Ballmer's appearance. I was expecting more. I thought there was going to be more. Not when the Clippers put out there that, we can provably show. This is provable. We could show that we didn't do anything wrong. Okay, great. Where was that? That's what I thought we were going to get from that Steve Ballmer appearance. Other than just, all he did was say, we made a deal with Kawhi. We made a deal with Aspiration. Those deals were done. Then we introduced Kawhi Leonard to Aspiration. It wasn't until those deals were done individually. Then we introduced the two. Therefore, we couldn't have done this because then it would have had to have been part of Kawhi's contract. We would have had to have this whole agreement and everything. And if we made those deals separately and we hadn't even introduced them yet, then how could we have done anything wrong here? And Ballmer's assertion was, hey, we introduced them, and then that was it. It was hands off. I had no idea what they did. He even said he didn't know how much money athletes can make on endorsements. He has no idea. We heard a lot of, I don't know. I was hoping to hear a lot more of, this is wrong because of this. This is wrong because of that, because I have this evidence, because look, this happened this way, and this and this and this, and explaining things more so than, oh, I don't know what his deal was. I don't know. I have no idea how much athletes make. I don't know. I just own a professional sports team, but I don't know how much athletes can make on endorsements. I don't know. That's not my business. I have no idea. That I was waiting for him to really come out firing with evidence, with this is why, refuting the actual claims that were made by Pablo Torre, instead of just throwing his hands up and saying, oh, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what Kawhi's deal with them looked like. It was a lot of that phrase, a lot of I don't know. And I was just expecting a stronger defense there from Steve Ballmer. I was expecting more detailed information there from Steve Ballmer. And of course, maybe it's best that stuff comes out during the course of the NBA investigation from the Clippers side of things and not on a TV program on ESPN. Maybe the better forum for that is in the official NBA investigation. So that certainly could be part of this here. But I think that's ultimately where I land. I'm not going to say the Clippers are definitively guilty or not. I know there's a rush to judgment in situations like these. I hope they aren't. I've said it before. I hope that it's not something that they actually did. We talk about cap circumvention and all of that. But ultimately, I wanted to hear a lot more than I don't know. Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. This is obviously something we're going to be monitoring here moving forward. The biggest story in the NBA right now, and certainly something we will be keeping tabs on. Appreciate all the support everybody's given us here at the Basketball Bulletin. Please make sure you do subscribe and turn on those notifications. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.